Hi, good evening, everyone. We'll get started in just a bit. We're going to wait for Commissioner Van Wy to join, and then we will move along to her. And I said just as I spoke. Hello. Okay, so in the interest of time, it's now 7:01 and we have our quorum, and we will begin our PSE meeting for ANC 1C for March 22nd, 2023. First thing I'd actually like to ask our committee is I'd like to add a motion to add an agenda item. Do I have a second?
Second.
Great. So I've invited Commissioner Wood to come talk to our commission about the FY24 budget letter that we'd like to present to the council members. So I will hand the floor over to you, Peter, to give a little bit of an overview of what our budget recommendations will be.
Thanks, everyone. Good evening. So I'll be brief. I know that you have multiple items, and the idea here was just to get this started somewhere in our process, and it's budget season is always a crunch for time. So I'll get into that in just a second. But basically, I wrote a document, just kind of a draft for us to start to consider some key areas for us to make budget recommendations. Today, the mayor released her potential fiscal year 2024 budget. As now it's the process where the council takes public input that can come from ANCs, it can come from residents, it can come during their meetings, it could come from resolutions. So this is, or letters as well. So this is an attempt to just kind of highlight some of the areas that we as a commission have discussed since we took office, both in our meetings and then just kind of as we're preparing ourselves amongst ourselves. It's a weird sentence. But the idea is that there's, lots and lots of issues that we could tackle, but I tried to keep it relatively focused just to try to make that calculation. I mean, there's just different approaches. You can be broad, you can be specific. This is a bit more specific, 3 target areas. The reason it's late to be added to the agenda, or to be considered to be added to this agenda, is because it takes time. And it's a tricky balance. If you do it too early, you might be proposing things that really are irrelevant to what actually ends up being a discussion for the budget debates. If you wait too late, you might not be able to be heard because everything's kind of set in stone at some point. So hopefully this is threading that needle. And also the idea is for us to just have enough time from this committee to look at it as a commission, not just this committee, but the full commission, so that ideally April 5th, we could take some formal action to say, hey, to whoever we decide to send a potential letter to, we make these recommendations. Hopefully it's all right. I try to keep it to 3 areas, and of course it's open for discussion. That's the point. But the 3 areas that we had, I think, discussed since we were elected and started having commissioner election meetings informally: public safety, small business retention, and neighborhood beautification. I try to go through a list of things that came to mind that we had discussed, of course, opened to modifications, deletions, additions. But I think that's the general gist. If you have any questions, go ahead and direct them to me, but I hope you consider it just to at least get a little bit of airtime tonight for some discussions, so we can just kind of continue that over the next, 2 weeks, because we have a week without a meeting next week.
And I don't know if it'd be easier for the commissioners. I could try sharing on screen the current letter as it stands, if that would be helpful.
I forgot an important detail as well, if I can jump in.
Is that showing to everyone?
That is. So I based this 2 years ago when I was first started as commissioner. ANC 1C did this exact thing. I pretty much replicated that template. I believe it was Jaber Bowles, who used to be 1C07's commissioner. Now he's the deputy mayor for LGBTQ affairs for the mayor's office. He did a lot of this work, so I tried to kind of follow that. Last year, for whatever reason, never happened. We didn't do anything like this. It's not something that a commission has to do, but I think it's a good idea to try to raise some budget issues to the attention of council or to whoever else we think is relevant.
Well, I think we know that the mayor presented her budget today. So that definitely gives us sort of a starting place of where to push back or make recommendations. And I think it sounds like the easiest and best way for us to do that as an ANC is to go through our council members. So I think having this written and sort of directed at to our council members is a really good place to start. And Peter, from discussions we had, my understanding was like this was sort of built over the last year. So the past commission and now the current. So this is sort of an opportunity for the newer commissioners to make any input. I think, what's that?
Can I add one more thing I forgot to mention?
Absolutely.
In the public safety section, just based on what we've kind of focused on, among other things, try to focus on public safety in terms of kind of like violent crime and also traffic safety and pedestrian safety. So a lot of tenets to there. So I was trying to make sure that those are incorporated.
Okay. I think the only thing I would recommend adding, which I'm not sure the best place for, is like, we know just, and we've only, because we learned this today, that in the mayor's budget, it's proposed to reduce the number of routes that are offered by the circulator. And one of the routes that was mentioned to be discontinued is the route that goes from McPherson to Woodley Park. So that is something I would recommend to add, I guess, under the public safety. But there's also been some discussions that multiple ANC areas will work together to also make that recommendation. But it probably doesn't hurt to have it in both places. And maybe it could be public safety and public services as a header, to sort of as a catch-all was sort of my thought. But I don't know if the other commissioners have any comments or questions.
Well, I think that, you know, because I'm a new commissioner, well, I'm just basically new to all this. And when I asked Jared for certain types of funding, unfortunately now I feel bad because I sort of feel like I asked for a bit of fluff, because I thought the basic services were going to be covered, you know, including public transportation. And I know there is a large push for expanded public transportation. So I was a little surprised and a little taken aback that a route was eliminated. So yes, I think Peter, this is a great start. I just think maybe we need to regroup, possibly in a separate meeting or something, and you know, maybe expand upon this a bit, and you know, focus on maybe the public transportation portion of it, and so forth, you know. So I guess I just was thinking again that the bare bones was going to be covered. So I just kind of got a little caught off guard. So that's all.
Can I add a comment here? So a couple of things. One, glad you've had some time to at least look over some of this. And also, it's a rude awakening when things that we hope that we can take for granted in our city's government don't necessarily get paid for. It's often a tricky balance, trying to, you know, speaking kind of hypothetically as the mayor or council or the chief financial officer for the city, trying to figure out how much money we have as a city and how much we might have in the future is not always easy. And there's always these kind of tugs of war to try to determine what should be funded, what can't. And not everyone can always be happy because we don't have all the money in the world. Although DC has a pretty good budget compared to a lot of cities in the US. So that said, I definitely think I'm not this committee, so it's up to you all to make recommendations for the full commission. Though I think we should be careful with the idea of additional meetings, just because often the ANC has had recent recommendations or a guidance saying that if a quorum of commissioners is on a meeting that is dealing with kind of materialistic recommendations based on our duties, that we need to make sure it's publicly open for comment and participation in observation, which gets into logistical issues to try to schedule how and when, etc. If it's not a quorum, if it's just a small group of commissioners deciding that they want to just kind of review things for informative purposes, that's a bit different, and I think that makes sense. I just want to raise that attention because, like, ideally we would have all the time and effort in the world available to do this, but we all have a lot of commitments. We don't get paid for this, so we try to balance things. So yeah, that's kind of my 2 cents. I'll let you all do whatever you choose to do, but hopefully this is a good starting point so that we can, in a couple of weeks, have at least something to direct towards. In my mind, all of our council members make sense, and the ones that we can directly vote for. So Doe, Mendelson, Bonds, McDuffie, White, and Henderson would be the 6. But that's up to you all to make a recommendation and the full commission to decide. But and I'm not sure it matters too much, but it doesn't hurt, I don't think, to send people an extra email with an official letter if we get to that point.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. And Peter, thank you for putting this together. I think it's a very solid list of priorities. The one thing I do think it might be useful to do is, if possible, looking at the mayor's proposal, and if there are areas where we can be a little responsive, since we have something to work with, I think that could be valuable. I know if the time exists to do that, I would love to see if there are any areas that we want to respond to directly in this letter, like with the circulator, which I think is an excellent addition to this letter.
And just one more final comment, just to this, if it gets onto your agenda tonight and discuss it, there's not too much pressure to go too in depth, because it was something very last minute, but at least hopefully a starting point, so that over the next 2 weeks, ideally, we can be prepared to maybe go further as a full commission and have that particular discussion and editing and additions, etc. So like I said, we don't have all the time in the world to do this. We don't have staff to go through and give us bullet point notes on what the many pages of the mayor's budget proposal says, but we can do our best.
Yeah, and I don't want to sound ungrateful. Thank you, Peter, for putting this together. Yes, this is very actually extensive. It's just that, again, I guess, it's just a little bit of a rude awakening on some points, So again, I think it's great, and maybe we just sort of discuss it and tweak it a bit, and then we send out an official letter and so forth, and that's all.
So I guess just to clarify, Commissioner Wood, we could give you any recommendations or make any recommendations or tweaks tonight, and then vote to refer it to the full ANC, and then there would be additional edits or comments made at that meeting.
Yeah, I mean, the way that I try to run myself is that a majority of a committee or the majority of the commission, you do whatever that says. So we work as a whole. So, and this is also a point that has been kind of contested in the past, but I've checked and rechecked, and I know I'm right, which is just because someone writes a particular proposed letter or resolution doesn't mean they're the only person whose approval is necessary for edits. Everyone has the same voice. So if anyone says, hey, I have a friendly amendment that I'd like, if any single commissioner says, I don't like it, it can go up for a vote. Just an important point, but it's collectivism, and that's, I think, how it works. And I try to it's easy for me in my mind to defer to that, which is, if the majority of this committee says we want this thing in this form to be considered by the commission on April 5th, that's what the committee says, and this will be considered. And then the majority of the commission can either go with that, change it, whatever, ignore it. That's up to whatever the majority of the body at the meeting at hand gets to decide. Does that answer your question?
I think that helps. Does that help clarify to the other commissioners?
I think, well, I guess then my question would be, Peter, when would our comments be due to you?
Nothing's going directly to me. I just put this together, but we decide as a commission.
Okay.
Let's make sure that just in transparency that we work together. So it's not like
Okay.
I don't have any particular authority. I just happen to be chair.
Okay.
And I happen to have written this, but we work on it together. I mean, if you make comments tonight, that, like I said, you didn't get a lot of time to read it, so it's not like there's a lot of pressure, but we have committees, this is what it's for. So to whatever degree you feel you're able to at least look at it and comment. If it's not much, you don't even have to do anything. If you don't feel comfortable as a committee passing any suggestion, I can still recommend that we put it on to the April 5th meeting without the committee suggesting anything. We have it available, so I was doing my best. I was hoping to get it much earlier, but I didn't. I've been traveling a lot for work lately, but that was the advantage, that I had a long flight that I spent time doing this exact editing. I think I was in the airport, but regardless, I got something together, so hopefully it's helpful, even though it's a bit last minute.
At least for me, Chair Wood, I mean, if we sent this particular letter, I would be happy with it. I would love to see, whether there are ways that we can make it a little bit more responsive. So, I don't know if this process makes sense, but, hypothetically, we could, I'm happy to, advance this to the full commission, and at that date, maybe propose some amendments or additions, and vote on something then. I don't know if that process is possible, but.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I mean, it's not on your agenda yet for tonight, and it's not my decision to be able to vote for if it's recommended, but it's something that sounds like a reasonable approach to me.
Okay. All right. I think that's enough. We have plenty to work with from here. So if there are recommendations, and it would be mostly, and I think what Commissioner Van Wyatt mentioned, and this is just happenstance because we got the mayor's budget today, so we do have something to sort of work with and respond to. And that's just one way maybe we can bulk up this particular draft that you put together, that now we have, because of the timing of that we can probably be a little bit more direct, and we all know it's a wish list, we know, but it's, I think is important for us to, signal to our constituents that these are the issues that are important to our community and that we are taking them forward to our council members. So I know for basic suggestions, I would put in it just maybe some of the headers, we can make them a bit more inclusive. I think adding something within here about maintaining the circulator routes. And then, like I said, I think there will be a larger discussion on that with some of the other commissions. So that might be its own letter itself. So I would motion to recommend that we forward this on to the full ANC. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. All right. Thank you, Commissioner Wood. And I think we'll look through this. I will forward this on to the full ANC if the other commissioners have any comments or tweaks they want to let me have, and I can forward those on along with it, because I don't think we have access to edit. So
A couple of quick comments if I may, as an observer.
and and make sure I got this the Robert's rules correct, because I may have not.
Just making sure. There was a motion on the floor, which is to add this to your agenda, and there's never voted on. I'm being very.
Yeah, no, we did.
Oh, okay, I just
Okay.
overlooked that. Sorry, I was just not paying enough attention.
We did.
Okay, so just making sure that was just probably not super important, but it's good to follow the procedure, I suppose. And then I just will make sure that there's edit access. I thought I had that taken care of, but apparently not.
No worries. Okay, perfect. All right, thank you, Commissioner Wood. So now, sorry, I can stop sharing. All right, so now we will move back to our original agenda. The first item on the agenda that I wanted to discuss before we have some of our guests speak to us is that we've updated, not really by a lot, but there is now a new ANC 1C grant application that's been updated. And part of the difficulties we had with the previous Google Docs grant application that was up was that we weren't sure who that was going to, because it was linked to someone else's Gmail account and it wasn't mine. So if I can share again, if I can find it. There is now a new, a new link, and I will put it in the chat. It looks, if you are a person who's in the past submitted a grant to us, it's a very similar looking link. It's just now in green and it has the year behind it. So now that we can hopefully better distinguish between years. So generally for this quarter, our ANC has around $10,000 to award in grant money. And that we just ask applicants to fill out this application. It'll generate a response and let me know that one has come in, and then I will share that grant application with the members of this committee. And if we decide to consider it for an application, we invite you to come to one of our meetings to tell us more about your application and give us an opportunity for the PSE committee to ask you questions. and if I see the chat, if there are any, oh, I see it. Yeah, right. And were there any, and I hope that helps to clarify sort of the grant system and grant applications for the PSE for 1C. Like I said, it's very similar to what was there before, but it's just now linked to my Google account. So I'll see it, whereas before we did not quite have access to the previous form. And I apologize to any members of the public who were applying and not hearing back from us. Any questions, comments from the commissioners? Okay. So now I think, Sean, we're going to elevate, I believe Lorena and Catherine are both present, and we would invited them to come speak to us about the grant application they submitted.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. Excuse any background noise.
No worries. I think we're all having that. We should all be used to it by now.
Hi, sorry, for some reason my camera isn't working. Okay, there we go.
Hi, so welcome. So I guess we could do a quick introduction. I'm sorry I didn't do this earlier with the commissioners. I just knew Commissioner Wood had to get on quickly and get off quickly. So we'll go ahead and introduce commissioners, and then we'll ask you to talk a little bit about the grant application you submitted. And then if there's any questions that the commission has, we will go through this. So I'm Linda Laughlin. I'm chair of the Public Services and Environment Committee for ANC 1C. I represent 1C06, which is part of, I didn't put my 06 in there, sorry, which is part of Lanier Heights, closest side to Mount Pleasant. Pass it over to Commissioner Van Wy.
Hello, my name is Joe Van Wy. I'm the vice chair of the commission and commissioner for 1C04, which is the northwest corner of the ANC. And I'll kick it over to Commissioner Stevens.
Good evening. I'm Commissioner Stevens. I'm the commissioner for 1C05. We are the SMD nearest the zoo. At the back of the zoo, we have the large historical Ontario apartment building, and we have the infamous kiosk, which now has beautiful new signage on it. And I'm very anxious to hear about your application. So welcome.
Perfect. So yeah, I think we've all read through it, and I think you are a familiar applicant to our grant program. I think I've seen some past history, so that's really great that we have that relationship with you. And certainly because we're all new commissioners, you get to tell a group of new people about your great program, and we'll learn more about that. So I'll kick it over to the two of you.
Awesome, thank you. Hi, my name is Lorena Shank, and I am a proud parent of Mary Read with two children in Mary Read Elementary and a rising P-Care that's hopefully coming lottery soon. And I'm also part of this presenting along with my colleague here, part of the PTO. I'm part of the Finance Hub, and my role is for fundraising. And thank you again, commissioners, for listening to us. And I'll pass it over quickly to Catherine, who will be presenting with me today.
Great, thank you, Lorena. Hi, I'm Catherine Hildem, and I'm also a proud parent of a fourth grader at Marie Read, and I'm the treasurer this year of the PTO. So Lorena and I work closely together on all things finance for the PTO, and we appreciate the opportunity. And again, as you mentioned, Commissioner Laughlin, we do have a past history. I believe there was a grant. We're both new to the PTO this year, but there was a grant a couple of years ago that the ANC gave to Marie Read for COVID-related relief. So that was very helpful to the school. Thank you.
Awesome. So I've never really shared on my Apple a presentation. I'm going to jump for it and try. And if it doesn't work, I'll turn it off. So hopefully this works. So one moment. I'm like, oh, I hope this works. Okay. And then share. Do you all see what it
Yeah.
says? Yay, great. Okay, let's get going. Thank you again. So just a brief, quick overview, because I know we have 10 minutes. So basically, me and Catherine are part of the Mary Read board, and our organization is seeking from the ANC and applied for the grant, the maximum of $4,000 to help with our food prints program. And as you may or may not know, Food Prints is an organization that the school partners with. Is also a nonprofit that is part of the curriculum and serves all of our students. And since 2021, the PTO has been asked to share the load for the cost of Food Prints, because they're also a nonprofit and as a partnership to contribute to their costs, which is about $10,000 in total for every year. And so this past year, for this school year, the PTO luckily received a grant from another organization for $3,500 from fundraising from family donations and other folks, but we still have these remaining costs because of the shift of, from the school asking the PTO to help out with Food Prints. And then we wanted to give you a little bit more scope. Some of you may or may not know how Mary Read is part of the community in 1C. We believe as parents that we're part of the heart of Adams Morgan. Yes, there's the elementary school, and while we don't represent the rec center side, but our children do play a lot on those facilities. So you'll see our kids running about on 18th Street everywhere. Supervised. But Mary Read has 460 students between PK 3 and 5. We are a Title I school with a diverse background of students with very different social economic statuses. And as a PTO, we are a 501c3 that, we have a good mix of families that are from different social economic class speaking. And we are also a bilingual school, if you may or may not know. And so some of those family members, like myself included, our heritage is from Latin America. And so our PTO is really trying to partner with our school, partner with the community and different organizations to enrich the programs for our children and to help the supplemental funding and organizing support for the school priorities, which specifically Food Prints is what we're highlighting. So I'll pass it on now to Catherine to talk about a little bit more.
Great. Thank you. And just one thing I want to go a little deeper on that Lorena mentioned is that we are a Title I school. So of course that means 35% of our students are eligible for free and reduced lunch. And so that really is also fits in with this application, because Food Prints is really all about food education, learning to grow food, to cook food, to have healthy eating habits. And I'll get to this later, but just pointing out that it also really does support families that are food insecure as well in our community, our school community. So it's a curriculum, as Lorena mentioned, and it's hands-on learning about nutrition, cooking, and really healthy lifestyles. Helps children develop a healthy relationship with food and with the environment. The school has a garden that the kids grow things and help grow things in, and they have a kitchen classroom, which they cook. They pick food from the garden and they cook the things they pick in the classroom in school. They grow, cook, and eat the food. And so the lessons incorporate math, science, writing, social studies, and of course, outdoor learning, because they're in the garden taking care of the garden. The Food Prints does serve a number of other GCPS schools, but it really is something that the school community at Mary Read, both students and teachers. I never in the 10 years of my son's life would think I would hear him say that he tried kale and he liked it. But in Food Prints, they grew kale in the garden, they picked it. They really just get excited about cooking things and trying things. So it's good for all of them. George Mason University did a study on Food Prints and found that it helps positively frame relationships to food, and it really improves the school's capacity for nutrition education and integration of, the subject standards and into the garden and food curriculum. So very positive all around. And next slide, please. Thank you. As I mentioned, with assistance in identifying food insecure families by the administration, the Food Prince has provided monthly farm shares for food insecure families. They also coordinated a delivery of Thanksgiving food baskets for families in the school that have great needs. And they're exposed to, I apologize, there's a little missing something there, but it really exposes children to different fruits and vegetables and healthy choices in a low stress environment. And they often, they learn recipes, they bring them home. So it's a really integral part of the curriculum, and students are able to go to, it's like an in-school field trip when they have Food Prints. Classes are able to get it once a month, and even more when we were able to provide more funding. But again, we appreciate the opportunity to tell you a little bit about it and are happy to answer any questions. And one thing to clarify too is that $10,000 is the share that the Marie Reed PTO is contributing to Food Prints. The parent organization of Food Prints they are also nonprofit, and they have raised money, and they get some money from DCPS, but a lot of that funding has dwindled. And so, the $10,000 is a really big share for the PTO to contribute. And I think especially as we look toward next year when the DCPS budgets are going to be even more tight, it's things like Food Print that are going to be on the table for maybe being cut or eliminated. So with that, we're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. That was really, I did not know this program existed. So I guess one question I had is, so how long has Marie Reed worked with, is this the first year this program is being run, or it's been like a multiple year partnership with them?
I'm not sure how many years, but I know it's been at least the 5 years that my son has been in the school. Okay. And it's been an ongoing partnership. Lorena,
okay. So, and I guess I think I have a better understanding of separating the two groups. So you are acting as, you sort of are contracted through them to bring in this program into the school, but they charge a fee, or they have funding. They need to be funded.
Correct.
Okay. And
I think a lot of their funding is for, and I'm sorry we weren't clear about this, but a lot of their funding, I think it may be in the our proposal, but the funding supports 2 teachers who are there, right. 2 teachers for the Food Print program and for all the supplies and programming. So it's a relatively large budget that they have funds for. Marie Reed, the school, puts in a little bit of money for, and then the PTO as a support organization also contributes.
And then I noticed, so I know that you asked for the money for this current school year, and I know there was a delay in us getting to you because I think you may have, the first time maybe when you submitted the application may have happened in December. And then Commissioner Falicini had forwarded something to me, but we took over as commissioners in January. We couldn't find things. So again, apologize for that. But my question is like, and I know it does take, we are learning with our treasurer for the commission that sometimes things are slow to move. So my concern was that if you were awarded the money, but it didn't happen for like a month or two, would you still be able to use it for this academic year, or can it like roll over to the summer or in the fall? I just didn't want to miss the window of opportunity for you all if our process was going to be delayed.
I'm happy to jump in it. We still would be able to use that. And I'll let Lorena jump in as well. But we do have a it really is useful to the end of the year. We could use it immediately, and then because we've been trying to make up for those funds, we're committed to the $10,000. So
Okay.
Anything that we do get would be useful. And Lorraine, I'll let.
Yeah, that's correct. From my understanding, like we're just, as like any folks with budget, we shift things around, priorities around, but our biggest priority always and has been food prints. So if the commission grants us, awards us this grant, we would immediately put it towards the food prints curriculum, and there's still 4 months left, and the kids do a lot of the curriculum up to the bitter, again, summer, like spring, and they have a whole curriculum around that. And I wanted to mention here too that the lovely thing that I found being bicultural is that they also incorporate a lot of bicultural, like Latin American, like arroz con leche, and they have the kids take home the recipes in English and in Spanish. So it's just a really, really unique program that surprisingly, like Catherine says, like my kid will eat like quinoa, and I'm like, you want to eat that? Like they're like, yeah, and I'm like, okay. So it's a great program.
That's awesome to hear. Any of the other commissioners have any questions or comments?
Yeah, just two quick questions. One, you might have said this, I had a loud sound in my apartment and might have missed something you said. But what percent of the like total food prints program is the 10,000 that you all are asked to contribute? How much does this run typically?
Thank you for asking that. And I'd be happy to forward sort of the food prints overall budget. What I think we sent you is just the PTO portion of it and how we were covering that. The PTO percentage of it is about 10 to 15% of the total budget.
Yeah, great. That would be great just to see.
Sure.
Then I guess I thought of one additional question, so I've got two more. One, do you with Fresh Farm, do you know where their funding and grants come from? And maybe that's in that document that you'll send.
The document does tell a little bit, but they really, I think my understanding is some of their sources of funding have changed over the years, which is why there's some challenges, but they get some money from DCPS. They've previously gotten USDA federal grants. So I think they're always actively fundraising as well. I mean, I know there's one of our the staff at Murray Reed, who's on the board with us, testified to city council to say, food prints should be part of every school because it's just such an amazing program. But they are also always actively fundraising. And Lorena, do you want to add anything?
I think that's pretty much it. Yeah, I feel like from my personal investigation, it's basically federal grants, their own like fundraising activities that they 501(c)(3)s do.
Mm-hmm. No, of course. And then the last question is, do you know where the procurement for a lot of the like produce and things that they do comes from? Is that largely like local or
Yeah, I was going to say, if I can jump in, Catherine, like I do feel like they do a great job of getting like local produce from farmers like in the DMV area and try to partner with them, the farmers. I feel like the last CSA was from Maryland. That was pre-COVID. Again, a lot of things have changed, but I do recall that they had the CSA and kids were coming home with food from like a Maryland farm. And so, yeah, and then they try to do community activities like helping clean up the garden, which is really fun. So they did that in the fall, I believe, Catherine. And then they try to have kind of a running community volunteer group in the summer to upkeep the garden because there's no school. And so they want to keep the garden up. So a lot of the families try as much as possible to keep that up and water the garden.
Yeah, I mean, this program seems incredible. You know, in my day job, I actually do a lot of work on food system reform and trying to increase access to fruits and vegetables for especially, you know, disadvantaged communities. And getting kids hooked on veggies early is a good strategy. So yeah, really seems like a fantastic program. I just wanted to understand the corners a little bit better. So thank you so much.
And Commissioner Stevens, did you have any questions?
No, not really. It sounds like a wonderful program. Very exciting.
So I think that I don't know if there's any other questions or comments. I think what I'd like to do is recommend that we take this grant application to the full ANC. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So this is good. So we will forward the application for the grant to the full ANC, which is at our April meeting. And then we'll take the final vote there, and then we will let you know. But it's a really awesome program. I am a board member of the Euclid Community Garden, and maybe one day we can figure out a way to partner with your school and have the kids come over and help us do some weeding. We always need help with weeds. I will warn you, there's an occasional rat. There will be the occasional rat.
Not for long with Linda as our
Right. It is what I'm trying to abolish is rats.
And just for clarity, that's going to be on the April 5th. Is that the next full commission?
Yeah. So we'll recommend to Commissioner Wood to add it to the April 5th full ANC so that the full ANC can hear our recommendation and do the final vote.
And so if one of you or both of you can be available for that, and if folks have questions, it might be helpful. Same time, same place.
Yeah, I'll forward the invite, and the other commissioners will also have access to the grant application that you submitted.
Great, thank you. And what I'll do is, as I mentioned, I'll forward the full budget to Linda. Can I forward that to you?
Yeah.
And then you can
And I can
distribute it?
share.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
I think most of the questions will probably come from our treasurer about, it sounds like our biggest issue is we've learned with the ANC treasury is just if we get like one big receipt from you, that's the best. If it's a bunch of little receipts, it makes it actually more difficult for us. And we can check with the treasurer. Sometimes it's a question of if we can directly pay to a group or other things, but we do ask that the receipts are made simple as we're learning. All right. Well, excellent. Thank you very much for sharing that tonight. And we'll be in touch for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I really appreciate it.
So the last item we had on the agenda was regarding the situation with the busing, the DC Public Schools busing, and the lack of response and needs for students with special needs. And I recommended to bring this resolution to our to this committee so that we could maybe forward it on to the full ANC, because it's again similar to what might happen for the circulator. There has been discussion amongst various ANCs about this busing issue, where buses have been late, not showing up at all, and that students, particularly with special needs, have been missing class or late to class because of it. So I know that some commissions, and I'm sorry, there was I'm not paying very good attention to the, Sean alerted to me that someone from the audience had their hand up. So let me take that question first. It's a phone number 202-705. I'm sorry. What was your question or comment?
Hi, good evening. This is Dennis James calling. Can
Hi,
you hear me?
Dennis. Yep.
Hi, how are you doing?
Good. Sorry, I didn't see the hand up. Sorry.
Yeah, I just just raised it, and I was trying to get it in there just as soon as you finished the Marie Reed
Okay.
grant application and before you moved on to something else. But thanks for taking me at this moment, because I was really calling to talk about the rather long list that Chair Wood brought to the meeting unannounced. You know, and in fact, I believe that none of the items that are on your agenda tonight actually were announced very far in advance. I think they maybe came onto the public knowledge yesterday, because I was looking to see if there was anything on your agenda, I believe as recently as Monday. But anyway, that's not the main point. The point is that there were so many items, and it was hard to even focus on them because the list, the paper that was being shown, you know, wasn't really held in place long enough to get a chance to really read numerous of the items. But one in particular, I don't believe has ever been discussed publicly before, and that would be making Kalorama one way all the way from 16th to Connecticut Avenue. For instance, just like to take that up without any offering of public discussion, like it wasn't offered to the public to discuss that segment of the meeting, you know, which took place before the regular agenda, you know. So I just think it's a much bigger issue, and just that one item. I live on the 1800 block of Kalorama. It matters to me how the road is used, and that's different from the. Just to talk about that, it has been a project of DDOT, you know, that was started through this ANC to make the 1800 block of Kalorama become one-way westbound. But that's all, not the rest of it. So that just deserves a much more of a public airing. So I do hope that that can be arranged. And I don't know exactly when that will be arranged. It seems like a committee would be the best place for numerous of those items. And it kind of was a laundry list of things, in my opinion, that were perhaps not fully vetted previously. It was kind of like a wish list. Some of them I do believe were, you know, subject of resolutions in the past, but not for this particular ANC, you know, this grouping of commissioners.
Correct. So Dennis, to clarify, the general agenda for the PSE was posted about 10 days ago. Commissioner Falcini may have put it on the ANC listserv and it was posted on our website, but the item regarding the potential items that this ANC may recommend that the council members consider for the FY24 budget. That was a late addition tonight. We did sort of open up quickly the meeting to vote to add that to the agenda, and then Commissioner Wood did discuss a little bit with us. So all we did was recommend that list of items that Commissioner Wood presented, and my understanding is that is different priorities that this ANC has considered over the past year. So nothing that was recommended is something that is set in stone, that is happening right now. It's just sort of items that we'd like the council members to be aware of and put up for consideration. We've recommended to just move that forward to the April 5th meeting for more discussion. So nothing, like I say, it's just more, it was a laundry list. It's like with budgets where you aim high and see what happens with it. But certainly it's just points for discussion. Certainly, I think if something like creating a one-way street and other things, that would not happen without a lot of input from the community. And you're certainly right on that point. So it was just more put up for discussion so that we at least have some voice and a little bit, some voice for our constituents in the budget process, knowing that most of the things that we'll ask for probably won't be granted. I don't know if any other commissioners had any comment on that.
I think, keep in mind that we're going to talk about this again at the April meeting. So, you know, the letter's on the website now. You can take a look, come with thoughts. We're happy to hear your feedback and if you want to reach out to us in between, please, I'm happy to take any thoughts that you might have on the letter via email and to consider them in the coming weeks before the meeting.
Okay, and I don't see any other hands up. So yes, again, we can certainly, it'll be circulated more as we prepare for the April 5th meeting. The Commissioner Wood will get that prepared. Okay, so sorry, we'll now, the one resolution that was posted as part of the agenda to discuss was, and I will try to share it now. As I was saying earlier, there had been discussion amongst sort of various different ANCs about the busing situation for our DC public school students, and particularly the impact it's having on the students with special needs. Let me get it. So I first want to say this resolution, that word for word for the most part, except what it mentions Ward 1, was copied from what some of the other commissions have done. So we're trying to do a bit of a united front to sort of put some to spotlight this particular issue for our public school students. And I do think, Commissioner Van Wy, I do think it needs to be a semicolon. I was looking as well, but I did add your other additions. And we did, I think from what we saw, the other commissioners saw, we did reach out to our Ward 1 Board of Education rep, Ben Williams, and he did indicate that this is an issue that has been affecting our Ward 1 students as well. My understanding, it has been a bigger impact for students in Ward 7 and 8, but it does seem to be a district-wide issue. And this has been on sort of the agenda and something that our school board members have been looking to and is more. And he did suggest that if there was more input or resolutions of this sort from ANCs, that might help get put more attention on this particular issue. I will say, because I'm not a parent and do not have children in the DC public school system, for those who have any comment in that impact or has impacted you, we'd love to hear that, just to have a better indication or sense of what impact this is having on you. But it was an issue that was reported on in the Washington Post, so that definitely puts a little bit of context on it. I think we got, but I wanted to sort of kick this over to the other commissioners for comments or questions, or anything that we may want to look into more.
So I'm like you, Linda. I do not have kids, and I have not heard that this is an issue in my S&D. But I think it's important to put this out there in case it's an issue anywhere in the city. I mean, I can't imagine, special needs students being subjected to this type of, honestly, abuse, being left at the side of the road or whatever is happening here. So I think this is pretty inclusive of the situation, and I definitely am in support as I read this now. So
yeah, agreed with everything that you said, Commissioner Stevens. And if Ben over at SPOE is saying that it is an issue in the ANC, I also don't have children, and so I'm not directly aware of this problem on the ground, but in case it is, I think bringing this to light is good. And Commissioner Laughlin, thank you for your leadership on this. I appreciate you bringing this to the committee, and I think it's a great idea.
Okay, and I think the one thing I think it'll now be 10 weeks, because I got this 2 weeks ago, including those residing. I wonder if we should say
in our ward.
Yeah, in our, I want to delete the whole thing.
I think maybe just
in Ward 1,
and just to kind of cover it.
Okay, does that in Ward 1, including those? Okay, I think that then. And I do think it is a semicolon. I looked it up.
Yeah, I've written some of these before. I'm pretty sure that's semicolons, but I wasn't totally. The finding section of a bill normally has semicolons.
Right. All right. I'll now change it to today's date. So I would I motion to forward this on to the full ANC meeting on April 5th. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I think I will try to reach out to Ben Williams and see if he can attend that meeting to see if there's any additional insight he can provide to us and the other commissioners. And I did see a flyer. I think it was sent to our ANC emails. I think either 1B or 1A was having something, I think, this weekend at the library, just pertaining to certain issues with the DC public schools. And I do think the school board members were going to be there. So that might, for others to learn more about it. But I think this is really important to move forward. I like having a united front with all the other ANCs to sort of highlight these issues. And then let me just double check that if there's any comments or questions from the public. And this, it was edited real time. So this resolution as it just was edited is available through our website it's linked on the agenda to our Google Docs. Okay, well, with that, I'll give you back the rest of your evening, and thank you, commissioners, and I will see you. I'll see you tomorrow. I'll see you in a couple of weeks.